Setting up webinar. I can no longer see it.
It says live on my screen.
Good morning, Facebook. Good morning, A Nourished Life community. Nicole Connor here, and I am, as always, excited to bring you something fun. And today I get the pleasure of interviewing someone who went through my Nourish Your Life class just a couple of months ago. Noelle Upchurch, welcome. And thanks for being on with me today. I am thrilled to have you, as I was having you in the class. And so Noelle has something to share. We're just going to talk a little bit about the class, what she thought about it, why she loved it, things that she got out of it, all of those good things. So Noelle, tell everyone a little bit about yourself and why you decided to take the class.
Thanks. Yeah, well, I'm Noelle Upchurch. I live in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm originally from California, so I'm a bit of a transplant here. And I'll just, reveal my age because I think it's kind of important when we're talking about health. So I don't know, I'm like 46 through 48, somewhere in there. I think I'm 47, I don't know. I'll be 47 this year. So anyways, we reached this point in our life and our bodies have changed a little, things are going on. And so, but health has always been very important to me. Mm-hmm. And I would say the second, and so I have some health struggles and weight struggles related to health struggles. And the second reason is just because I would take anything you offered. Even if it was learning to scramble eggs on top of my head.
That'll be in the next class.
Oh, right. Okay.
So you actually made a really good point that you were kind of under the impression that because I had been going to the Institute for Integrative Nutrition that I would be teaching a lot about food in particular and dietary plans, and you were surprised a little bit. Can you just go into a little bit about what was not what you expected, but pleasantly surprised?
Yeah, and you'll still have to correct me because of primary foods and secondary foods, because I still really haven't, identified that completely even after the class. But these were concepts that I was aware of the concepts, just not the way that the course put it out there for us to think about. That was new. That was new for me. And I was aware, like we've talked about in terms of health, that, there's some areas of your life you want to look at beyond just diet and exercise when it comes to happiness and relationships and spiritual well-being, those kinds of things that play into that outward appearance as well.
Right.
Not just the thing that we're eating. So I was aware of that. But this class really took the time to look at all these different areas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so thank you. So what I think is fun about what I and what the institute where I went to school and what we talk about is that there's this concept of primary food and secondary food. And primary food is really what's happening outside your plate. And you, like everyone in the class, filled out a circle of life. And for those of you that are looking, this is not hers, but it's just one kind of an idea of someone's level of satisfaction in different areas of their life. And a lot of that happens outside your plate. So if you're a woman of a certain age, like we are in our 40s, and we struggle with different hormonal issues and different stressors and things like that, not to say that people in different age groups don't suffer from the same kinds of issues. What I loved about your participation in the class and the things that you brought to the table were, certainly your aha moments about relationships and how that played into your level of satisfaction in overall life, how your career and the focus in your career were, how do you achieve authentic success? And then you had mentioned that, to have a foundation spiritually was a really big piece of overall satisfaction. So your circle of life was a little skewed when you got started. Do you mind touching a little bit on that exercise and what that, how that helped you kind of give a framework for this primary food and secondary food concept?
Yes, well, anytime I'm presented with an exercise, I walk at it, first of all. But, well, I'm attracted to this because there's color on it. But even I think, gosh, months before that, you had sent me a health history to complete, and I was like, oh goodness, I don't feel like sitting down and writing this out. So I loved just completing that wheel, and really seeing, and I had to go back and tweak it, but just seeing those pieces of the pie where, satisfaction is high, and others that you look at it and go, wow, I really didn't realize that my feeling about this aspect of my life needed more attention.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when you discovered that, did you see a correlation between certain areas? Like, for example, I'm looking at your circle, and to see how high a level of satisfaction you have in spiritual things, in joy, and then to have, physical activity not be as satisfactory as you would like it to be, where the home cooking, because you're home, and those kinds of things, and how they just correlate with your time and energy and where you're putting all that time and energy. Right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm so happy to know that the areas where you had the least amount of satisfaction that have improved, even just over whatever, 6 weeks is not a long time to undo a lot of old thoughts, old practices, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you focus a little bit on, in our conversation about the 5 love languages that we cover in the class, and that you and your husband had never really heard of it, but never really exercised that. You kind of made a joke about it with each other going forward, but tell us how that's helped you communicate with each other.
Yeah, well, the coolest part was that when we took the quiz, our love languages lined up,
Yeah.
And but I think maybe we fudged a little, because I think we put gifts down at the, giving and receiving gifts down at the bottom, and I think we'd both like that a little bit more. But yeah, it's just another eye-opening kind of practice to do, and that's what all of it was, looking at our sleep behavior. Because again, we just get into habits and routines and just making shifts. And sometimes we need to hear it multiple times, read different books, but just to have a focus and say, what are some little shifts I can make? Because I know sleep is important in my overall well-being, and I want that to be an area of satisfaction and doing the best for my overall health. What little changes can I make? Mm-hmm. I loved, in that same week we had gut health, and that's a fascinating topic to me. So I'm also excited to learn more about that. And I think collectively we'll all learn more over the years, right? Because it's just all starting to come to life. But I loved how we talked about that. And just again, not being so focused on the actual size and the actual weight and the actual, body types or body struggles and things like that, but just really looking at all the other areas of health and growth that are important to let the other one become in a nicer way. So it's not always so much pressure.
Right. That's a really good point. So if we can make some, we talked a little about crowding out, which is a concept of crowding out processed foods and things like that. And while that may not have been an issue, particularly in your household, but for those in the group that maybe didn't have really good practices in that way, is to keep it simple, right? I know that you always talk about keeping things simple, and that's okay. So what can we take out of our diet and replace with good stuff? Like, what good things can we add more of to crowd out the stuff you don't need? And then by doing that, you have all these other side effects that are good for your body. Right? So, so I won't keep you too long, but you had your last week was your favorite week. And I just want you to touch a little bit on what that really meant to you and how you're implementing that in your kind of go forward process after the class.
Yeah. And, it just kind of clicked in my mind because I had sent a message to our coach this morning. All of this as we're growing as individuals, whether we have, projects or careers that we're working on, when we're trying to excel. And I think this is what I was saying when we were first talking, is having the foundation laid of feeling, whole in our life is so important to look at all these different aspects, because otherwise, if we're grabbing to excel and go up and something is pulling us back down here, then that gets harder. And so, I remember just watching that week 6 videos, and I was so excited when you said, authentic success. And I was like, yes, that's what I want. I want authentic success. Yeah. That's what success looks like to me.
Right. Agreed. Because, it's one thing to just focus all of your time and energy on that one area of your circle of life, here. If you're focusing all of your energy and attention and all of these other areas that are equally important start to suffer, then how is that a picture of success? In my mind, and I'm not saying that everyone should have a perfectly round dots, right? I mean, we could strive for things like that, but I think where we choose to put our energy, we have to also carve out the energy and time for the things that are going to be there when something fails and when something falls, or when you have a really bad day. Your relationships are key in your success in your career, right? I mean, if you want to go do it by yourself, I guess you could, right? But authentically, the people in your life matter, and to give them the credit and the time and the love, and in their language in a way that matters, is a really big piece of that. And you had an opportunity to go through all of that and have made some huge improvements in your life, and still even has helped redirect some of your attention with your other coaches too.
Yeah. And I think the first step about it is awareness. Even if my, core areas, the beautiful color chart doesn't balance out, even the ones that were so low, just having that awareness brings change. That's
for sure.
Step.
Yeah.
Otherwise, to be just on the machine and not looking around. And then, like you said, something bottoms out and, oh gosh, what happens now? So.
Right. So the foundation work is what you'd said initially. Yeah. And I like how you framed that. It's just a great way to put together. So for those of you who are thinking about taking the class, or you want to know more, Noelle had said that kind of her, and maybe I'm summing up correctly, I hope, is that this it was a real foundational starting point for her in putting together the spiritual piece, which you had already been practicing. But for those that don't, it's got a great foundational piece of gratitude and spiritual practice. It's a foundational piece to start out your nutrition and sleep habits better, so your body can heal itself, right? And to be able to speak somebody's love language so that you have more satisfying relationships. And then this career piece. And then we talked a little bit about exercise and kind of what works best for you, not for everyone. Try on something. Right? Not that we're all not the same people. We all have different body chemistry and the things that we enjoy and things that bring us joy. So I so appreciate your time, and your just showing up for that class was half the battle, and being ready and prepared and doing the homework and just doing the work. I'm just really proud of you, and I can't wait for you to be in my next class. Please reach out to Noelle if you want more information or want a little bit more detail or something like that, or reach out to me, and we'll send you the information about the class so that you can get started.
Yeah, my biggest recommendation that I'll make just right here is take the class. Take the class. Every person needs this class. whether they know it or not. And I took Nicole's next class, and I would take this one again. That'd be great. Take it like a year later and see.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Yeah.
That would be fun. Well, thanks, Noelle, for being on with me today. I really appreciate you, girl, and we'll talk again very soon.
You're an awesome coach.
Thank you, love.
Thanks.
Bye.